everybody, back to the cooking channel, and today we're going to make jalapeno mushroom poppers. These are going to be appetizers. Great party pleaser. Most people are always thrilled with them, and they're easy to make. Won't take you very long, so I'm going to walk you through the process. Alright, so let's go through some of our ingredients that we're going to need. First, beer. Always cook with beer, my biggest suggestion. Next, let's get down and take a look at some of our ingredients. We're going to need some white button mushrooms, nothing super fancy. We're also going to need some black pitted olives, some white cheese, some kielbasa sausage, toothpicks, couple knives. We'll need some jalapeno rings. We use the rings because they're easy to get, but if you can get fresh jalapeno, that's even better. It's just going to be a little bit spicier with the fresh jalapeno. And then we use just garlic, and we have some olive oil, a shredder for our cheese, a couple bowls that we're going to use for our ingredients, and then the large glass bowl you see, we're going to use this for actually baking the mushroom poppers. And the reason is it's they sit up really nice in there, and then we can serve it right in the dish. Okay, so as you can see, we've prepped all of our mushrooms. You'll notice that I took the stems and popped them out of the mushrooms, and then I've taken the stems and I've cut them into smaller pieces. And we won't use all the stems, so the ones that we don't use we'll save for later. They're great for sauteing up with some butter and some garlic. But I've also taken our olives and we've gone ahead and cut them into thirds. So 3 slices each. We've cut off some of our sausage, which is going to be added up. Shredded the cheese. Jalapenos didn't need much preparation because they're already in rings. But this is the mixture that we make with the olive oil and the garlic powder. And you'll see that it's not too thick, but as I brush it with the pastry brush, I'm going to brush these mushrooms with it, and it's just going to create a nice little garlicky layer on top of the mushrooms that will bake in once we put these in the oven. Okay, so now that we have our ingredients all prepped, now we need to go through the assembly process. So I'm going to walk you through that, and we're going to start with the mushrooms. So we're going to take the mushrooms and we're just going to brush our oil and garlic powder mixture. And don't be afraid to put a lot on there because it's going to soak in and it's going to really add some flavor to the whole mushroom popper. So you notice we'll have different size mushrooms. Some are going to be big enough to put a jalapeno ring inside, and others are going to be a little bit too small to fit an actual jalapeno ring. So I'm going to show you how we deal with that. So let's take one of the small ones, and when we assemble these, we're going to get some jalapeno rings out here, stick them on our board. So I'm going to find a small jalapeno, and I just slice one edge and pull it in half, and then we're just going to stick that inside the mushroom, and we'll put that in our pile. Grab one of our larger ones, and again, this one's not quite big enough to hold a whole jalapeno as a ring, but we can stuff it in there like that. Here's a larger one, but we have a large ring, so just by slicing one side, I can get the whole jalapeno inside the mushroom. And the thing I really like about this recipe is that it doesn't cost a lot of money. You can just buy some regular cheap white cheese. You can buy, use deer sausage or summer sausage, or whatever you have around. We use kind of a Russian salami. It's called servelat. It's not very expensive, but it's tasty enough. Again, these are just your appetizer. And let me tell you, when people start eating these, they're going to be ready to eat whatever you're serving as the main dish, because they're yummy and they're gonna want more. So so we're just going to stuff these with the jalapeno, and then the next step, if we have one of these, we're going to add a little bit of cheese, and we're just going to ball it up on top. We're going to take one slice of kielbasa, and we're going to grab a toothpick, and we're going to take one of these tops and just pin it. And then to top it off, we have a mushroom, or an olive. So we'll add that into our bowl because that's ready to eat. And we'll do one more just to show you. So we're going to take a little bit of cheese, add it on top, and again, the cheese is really malleable, so you can squeeze it together and it'll clump really good together. Add a slice of meat over the top and mushroom stem, and then we're gonna throw on an olive and stick it in here, and we'll do one more just for good measure here on the video. This whole time I have the oven set for 250 degrees Fahrenheit, about 150 degrees Celsius. So it's heating up. So while it's heating up, we're doing this assembly, and then once we're all finished with the assembly, the oven will be ready, and we'll just throw this all in. And as we do this last one, occasionally you're going to have a guest that either one, doesn't like jalapeno, or two, they don't like meat. So if they don't like jalapeno, one of the things that I'll do is I'll just stick an olive in there. We'll add some cheese on top, and then our meat and a toothpick. Now the important thing is you want your guests to grab one that's not hot. So I have my stem, and instead of putting the olive on top of the stem, I put the olive on the bottom of the stem, and this lets my guests know that this one isn't spicy. So we'll sit that there. Now we can do a similar thing without the meat if you have some guests that are vegetarians. So we're going to add the cheese on, and we're just going to take our stem, and then since it doesn't have meat, it'll be pretty obvious, but just to make sure, I add 2 olives. And now we know 2 olives is vegetarian, olive underneath the stem is going to be without jalapeno, and if it has the olive on top of the stem, like most of them will, those are the normal variants. So we're going to get these in the oven after I finish prepping them, and then I'll let you take a look at them once we're finished. Okay, so our mushrooms are all complete. Our oven's up to temperature, so we have about 150 degrees Celsius. And if you take a look at the mushrooms here, you'll notice I sprinkled a little bit of extra cheese on top. And the reason I did that is the way we're going to know if these are completed is when the cheese starts to melt. We don't want the cheese to be liquefied, so we don't want it to melt so much that it just turns into cheese liquid. But because most of the cheese is underneath the meat, I wanted to have a way to determine when they're actually ready. Usually it's about 12 to 15 minutes at 150 degrees, but we'll keep an eye on it. So let's put those in the oven now, and then we'll come back and check on them in about 12 to 15 minutes. Make sure they're looking good. So I think our mushrooms are about done, so we're going to take a look. So let's open these up here, and you'll notice that most of the cheese there has started to melt. I think it's done enough. We don't want to let it go too long, and so I'm going to go ahead and pull these out of here. Again, just to talk about some of the pros of this recipe is it's easy to cook, maybe 30 minutes total time. It tastes fantastic, and it doesn't cost that much. Some of the negatives, well, you're going to have to clean this bowl up of the cheese after you get done with it. But you use a baking sheet, whatever you want, and then it won't clean up so difficult. But we're going to go ahead and try these out in a second. We're going to let them cool off just a few minutes, and then we'll take a few bites. Alright, so you can see they're definitely done. One cool thing about these is that when you eat them, if they're hot, it's good because they're not going to be too hot that they'll burn your mouth usually. But even if they get a little bit cooler, if they're sitting for a while, they're still going to be fantastic. So let's go ahead and grab one and test it out. One thing I will tell you is eat the whole thing at one time. Don't nibble on the edges. Just stick it in your mouth and absolutely fantastic. You gotta try these. Let me know in the comments how yours turn out. If you have questions or whatnot, of course we appreciate your support. Upvote us, like us, follow us on Steemit, and try these out for yourselves. Share your recipes with me. Always love to hear about it. So have a fantastic night. I'm gonna go ahead and dig in and eat some more.